Last week in Michigan politics, a protester taken into police custody on camera just after an interview with 13 on Your Side. What we learned throughout the week about the incident that sparked national attention. Plus, voices speaking out as several West Michigan communities are set to lose the fire service they depend on. What some community members are saying and how one leader in the village that provides the service is responding. And after state lawmakers on one committee voted to claw back over $600 million in requested project funding, the state's attorney general is weighing in on why she says the mechanism they used is unconstitutional. We're back for another year of stories impacting our state and another round of high-stakes midterm elections in just a matter of months. I'm Josh Alburtus, and this is your 13 on Your Side rundown. We begin with the arrest of a protest organizer in Grand Rapids last Saturday after a rally against the U.S.'s actions in Venezuela that caught national attention. It happened while our camera was rolling immediately after an interview with 13 on Your Side.
And as soon as the light to the camera shut off, two police officers came up behind me.
I am not resisting arrest.
No, you're not resisting arrest.
I'm not resisting arrest. I'm going peacefully.
It should be our right to protest. It's our rights here are sacred in Grand Rapids, in this country. I think it's valid to be scared, but it's not valid to sit back and do nothing with your fear.
And later this week, we heard from Grand Rapids Police Chief Eric Winstrom about that arrest.
She was in front of the group. She had a bullhorn. It appeared she was actually directing them to join her onto the street. So I reviewed the video. It looks like the officers no less than 26 times told her she had to return to the sidewalk. You are free to express your opinions. You're free to use your speech. You have to do it from a safe place.
Plicta is facing a citation for failure or refusal to obey a lawful order from an officer. She was expected to be in court later this month. And this incident brought up what the law may say when it comes to protests in the street. We poured over state and local law to find out. Shockwaves around the globe following the U.S. capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro on charges of narco-terrorism. The event spawning what was called an emergency protest here in Grand Rapids.
We want to stop war with Venezuela. We want to end all U.S. wars. We don't want boots on the ground in Venezuela. We don't want to fight Venezuela for oil. We don't want our friends and families to be sent to Venezuela and be killed for oil.
Just after 13 on Your Side spoke with local activist Jessica Plicta, she was then approached by Grand Rapids police.
I am not resisting arrest.
No, you're not resisting arrest.
I'm not resisting arrest. I'm not resisting arrest.
What is she being arrested for? Obstructing a roadway and failed to obey a lawful command of a peace officer.
The allegation of obstructing a roadway brought up the question as to what the rules may be, aside from penalty for not obeying with a lawful order. Both Grand Rapids City Code and state law prohibit blocking a public road without authorization. In both, obstructing a roadway could often be treated as a civil infraction. Some have wanted to change that on certain roadways, with a bill from last summer still aiming to criminalize assemblies on highways statewide.
I'd like to see other points of view. We all should, and be open-minded. But when somebody's right ends, when another person's right begins, that's just not right.
A push that had some lawmakers and local activists questioning.
I am extremely concerned about the chilling effect that this would have on free speech and free assembly.
I think that it would have a chilling effect on not only protests, but it would also have a chilling effect over Americans, the community, period.
Later in the week, more protesting took place in our region on another situation. A woman fatally shot by an ICE officer in Minneapolis on Wednesday. Dozens of people gathered in downtown Grand Rapids to voice their opposition to what happened in Minneapolis and pay respect to Renee Nicole Good, the woman who died. We're also hearing from state and federal leaders with another view on what happened. And 13 on Your Side's Nick Nelson was at the demonstration and heard how some felt now is a critical time for people to speak out, as the Trump administration asserted the ICE agent acted in self-defense.
The sidewalk near the intersection of Ottawa and Michigan in downtown Grand Rapids was lined with candles lit in remembrance of Renee Nicole Good, the woman shot and killed by an ICE agent in Minneapolis.
She was out trying to keep her immigrant neighbors safe.
Activist Emerson Wolf, along with dozens of others, gathered Wednesday night to speak out about what they call the unjust actions of ICE. President Donald Trump and the Department of Homeland Security say the woman weaponized a vehicle and tried to run over an officer. Michigan U.S. Senate candidate Mike Rogers says on social media, when you constantly demonize ICE, violent spirals and lives are on the line.
ICE agents repeatedly ordered her to get out of the car and to stop obstructing law enforcement, but she refused to obey their commands. She then proceeded to weaponize her vehicle, and she attempted to run a law enforcement officer over.
Wolf and the protesters disagree with DHS's assertions.
There are laws around how we ascribe intent to someone's actions, and it's really unreasonable that anybody is saying that she is trying to harm an ICE official.
Wolf also highlighted public policy that her group believes Grand Rapids should put in place in order to protect immigrants.
Sanctuary city policies do keep people safe. They protect our underserved communities, the affected communities that are at risk of being terrorized by ICE.
Protesting in Grand Rapids against the shooting of Good continued on for a second night on Thursday. And amid ICE activity, activists renewed their demands for local leaders here to adopt sanctuary policies when it comes to immigration. Members from local immigration rights organizations spoke at Thursday's Kent County Board of Commissioners meeting, and 13 on your side's Peter Elliott reports.
For months, immigration rights organizations have demanded that local officials in Kent County adopt sanctuary city policies in the wake of increased action from immigration and customs enforcement. After a woman was shot and killed by an ICE agent in Minneapolis on Wednesday, local activists are renewing their call for action.
Don't wait for something tragic happen like in Minnesota.
A plea from Hema Lowe, echoed by nearly 20 others who spoke during the public comment portion of this morning's Kent County Board of Commissioners meeting.
ICE and the lawlessness of our federal government will become your problem more than it already has become.
County residents urging commissioners to adopt 6 sanctuary city policies, which they say would protect immigrants.
I should have some say in what this city looks like and how it treats its people.
They include restricting the ability of local law enforcement to make arrests for federal immigration violations and preventing detention centers from being established in the county. It comes a day after the deadly shooting of a 37-year-old woman by an ICE agent in Minneapolis, captured on video in this disturbing footage.
We will continue to put pressure on the Sheriff's Department, on the county level and city level, to put these policies forward.
County Administrator Al Vanderberg says the issue is out of the board's control because it doesn't consider non-binding resolutions.
So the board's role again is to concentrate on matters within its legal jurisdiction, leaving policy decisions on immigration and other federal matters to those with the authority to make and enforce them.
Activists point to other counties across the country that have adopted similar sanctuary policies.
Some concrete policies that can be adopted because it's been done in other counties.
To cling to these arbitrary bureaucratic rules is insane.
Reporting in Grand Rapids, I'm Peter Elliott, 13 on your side.
The future of a unique foster care model in Kent County is uncertain after the state opted not to renew its contract. How a recent court order could be key in determining how the county's foster care system operates. That and much more in state-level politics when we come back. A lawsuit challenging Michigan's new marijuana tax is moving forward. The state court of claims judge ruled more evidence is needed to determine if the new 24% wholesale tax violates the intent of the 2018 voter-passed marijuana legalization law. The new law was passed last year to generate upward of $400 million for Michigan's roads and took effect January 1st. The lawsuit was filed by the Michigan Cannabis Industry Association in November. Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel and State House Republicans are at odds this week over a House committee's move last month to take back more than $600 million in requested work projects. Nessel issued a formal opinion saying the mechanism that allowed them to halt the funds by themselves violates the state constitution. Work project designations allow money left over in a line item from 1 year to be carried over up to the next 4 years to fund multi-year efforts. Michigan law authorizes the Appropriations Committee in either the House or Senate to disapprove of work project requests. But in her opinion, Nessel says essentially that the disapproval mechanism violates the separation of powers between the three branches of government. Meanwhile, the chair of the House Appropriations Committee that made that move, Republican Representative Ann Bolin, pushed back on Nessel's opinion. Bolin saying in part, quote, "The legislature has both the authority and the responsibility to oversee how taxpayer dollars are spent. We exercise that responsibility lawfully and in the best interests of the people of Michigan." Political opinions from the AG, she said, would not change reality or deter their work. The Republican House Speaker is viewed. Oh, no! 3, 2, 1. Political opinions from the AG, Bolin said, would not change reality or deter their work. The Republican Speaker of the House has vowed to sue. And another message from Nessel is causing waves this week after state regulators last month voted to fast-track special contracts from DTE Electric Company to service a proposed data center in Saline Township on the state's east side. Nessel is filing for a rehearing. Many members of the public opposed the fast track from the Michigan Public Service Commission, citing potential environmental and cost concerns surrounding the proposed center. Nessel, who has long held that these contracts remain slim and details made public, said on Friday, quote, "This was an irresponsible approach that cut corners and shut out the public and their advocates." She later went on to say, quote, "The commission imposed some conditions on DTE to supposedly hold ratepayers harmless, but these conditions and how they'll be enforced remains unclear. As Michigan's chief consumer advocate, it is my responsibility to ensure utility customers in this state are adequately protected, especially on a project so massive, so expensive, and so unprecedented." The MPSC responded to Nessel's petition, saying they look forward to considering it, but pushing back on any claim that the contracts were inadequately reviewed. Their statement saying in part, quote, "The commission's order in this case recognizes the utility's obligation to serve this customer under Michigan law while requiring the strongest consumer protections for a data center power contract in the country. Protections that would not be available under existing tariffs without the commission's approval of these contracts." A West Michigan organization tasked with improving the foster care system in Kent County isn't sure what will come next for them. That's after an agreement with the state's Department of Health and Human Services wasn't initially renewed. We look into what a recent court decision could mean for children in Kent County.
It's a very difficult and challenging job to do foster care.
That's where the West Michigan Partnership for Children comes in and aims to help.
It's really driven more by the community and the people that live here.
A local group that CEO Sonia Norman says has the kind of flexibility that bureaucracy may not.
We then contract with 5 private agencies who do direct service, and we have contracts with them that meet needs for children. So if a child needs something in particular, we can then work that out with the case manager at one of the agencies and make sure they have the funding quickly for the child or the parent so that they can receive permanency more quickly.
WMPC was created to carry out a unique foster care model in Kent County that was mandated by lawmakers. But now, whether they'll be able to continue on their current scale, Norman signaled, is unclear.
We're using our reserves to pay for our team, to be able to be staffed and ready to go. We don't have an unlimited amount of reserves.
Much of their funding, she indicated, comes from the state. And late last year, as the state passed its annual budget, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services didn't renew an agreement with the organization. WMPC then went to court.
The West Michigan Partnership for Children was developed out of that mandate. The legislature mandated that we have this type of program in Kent County.
A judge in December ordering the department to implement the unique foster care system in Kent County within 30 days, but not necessarily through WMPC.
At this moment, we don't know what the state is planning to do.
The judge left the door open for the department to fulfill the obligation themselves, but as time runs out,
the statute states we need to have this kind of system in Kent County. Right now, we're the only ones equipped to do it immediately.
We did get a brief reply from MDHHS on the matter. We were told, quote, MDHHS is reviewing the decision. And following a child care fraud investigation starting in Minnesota, the Republican leader, nope, dang it. Okay, just go back to the last one, if we have that lower third still. Okay, 3, 2, 1. We did get a brief reply from MDHHS on the matter. We were told, quote, MDHHS is reviewing the decision. Multiple West Michigan communities learned they are on the verge of losing fire department service. Coming up in local political happenings, what community members and leaders had to say at a village council meeting last week. In Lowell Township, there's a push to make local government meetings more accessible after a recent rezoning proposal for a possible data center put on pause last month brought a lot of public attention to the area. We spoke with the township supervisor and a local advocate to get the story.
Hi there, my name is Tyler Shepard. I was born deaf, so I rely on my cochlear implants. I rely on lip reading. I rely on closed caption. I rely on ASL interpreter. I posted a video on Facebook asking the community for help.
Help with trying to get what Shepard feels are much-needed updates to Lowell Township's local government meetings, which he noticed especially during a meeting last month.
I was just sitting there using my iPhone with a live closed caption. I was like paying attention, trying to follow everything and everyone what they're saying.
Shepard pushing for the township to live stream its meetings, post them online, and provide an American Sign Language interpreter. Also submitting a request under the Americans with Disabilities Act, he said in mid-December. His video urging people to submit letters of support.
It shows the board members to, okay, the community really want live streaming service. Maybe we should look into it more further.
Shepard says these changes would allow him to more equally participate in his local government. The change could also be a better option, he says, for those who want to be involved but can't attend in person.
They still want to participate but couldn't have a commute to come here. And parents who have kids still have time to come and participate as well. So it's not only for disability, but it benefits the whole community.
When 13 on Your Side went inside the township hall, the township supervisor met with us to give us updates. He told us after receiving an ADA request, they are working on the matter, trying to accommodate the request as soon as possible. They are attempting to get an ASL interpreter, we were told, as more local meetings are set for later this month.
Lowell is my home. I deserve a full access to the whole communication and set aside a communication barrier.
To get things where they need to be could cost over $10,000. And for an expense like that, the supervisor signaled it would need to go through the proper channel first. And it was a tense evening Tuesday night after a special meeting in Sand Lake. Some board members from 3 townships surrounding the village spoke up to share their thoughts after its intention to pull village fire service from the townships became public. 13 on Your Side's Nick Nelson had been following that controversial move for weeks and was there that night.
We want safety, and it's not, right now we don't feel that there shouldn't be any finger pointing. We just need to know what's going to happen for tomorrow, how we're going to get there.
Township residents like Craig Weaver say he's worried about whether or not his neighborhood in Ensley will lose fire service after the Village of Sand Lake's contract for fire coverage for Ensley, Nelson, and Pearson townships isn't being renewed after its expiration at the end of March.
You went ahead and quit all communications, and not one word has come from the Sand Lake Village. Not one word.
Ensley Township trustee Tim Newton was at the meeting and voiced his anger of the situation to the village council members after the meeting was adjourned. He has one message for the village and a solution he says would be the best for everyone.
Sell the fire department to Nelson Township. It's the only way to resurrect or even save any kind of fire coverage, period.
We spoke after the meeting with Sand Lake resident and former Sand Lake Board President Tracy Quinlan, who sharply criticized the current village council for what she calls the mismanagement of funds that led to the situation with the fire department.
I'm hoping that the townships that are affected will be able to get fire coverage, and us too. I mean, we're not going to have any fire coverage here in the village, and it's potentially very concerning.
Now, after the meeting, we spoke with current village president Molly Dorr. While she declined an interview, she provided a statement, saying in part, quote, "The village engaged in repeated discussions with Nelson, Ensley, and Pearson townships regarding the fire department agreements. Despite sustained efforts, the parties were unable to reach a mutually acceptable agreement." She also said, quote, "The village remains committed to professionalism and open communication with residents and will continue to conduct these matters through appropriate and respectful channels." To read the full statement, you can head to this story on our website, 13onyourside.com. Michigan's health department is pushing back against a new recommended immunization schedule being handed down from the federal government. What both the state's chief medical executive and the CDC have to say about the new recommendations, that's next. Expired Affordable Care Act subsidies are a step closer to being renewed. The U.S. House passed a bill Thursday to extend the subsidies for 3 years. 17 Republicans joined 213 Democrats in support of the extension after the ACA tax credits lapsed at the end of last year. The bill will now head to the Senate. And on Monday, the federal government updated childhood vaccination schedules. In the recommendation, according to ABC News, they omit universal recommendations for RSV, flu, COVID, and hepatitis vaccines, among others. Many in the healthcare industry are pushing back against these changes. And 13 on Your Side's Elena Holland spoke with the state's top doctor and a West Michigan pediatrician about how they're handling them.
This is going to create a lot of confusion for people.
Dr. Natasha Bagdasarian, Michigan's chief medical officer, is responding to changes by the CDC, no longer recommending universal vaccines for RSV, flu, COVID, hepatitis, and more for children.
I am dismayed that we're not following the science and the data that has well established the safety and efficacy of these vaccines.
The Michigan Department of Health and Human Services is pushing back against the CDC's changes. Dr. Bagdasarian said they continue to follow recommended immunization schedules created by the American Academy of Pediatrics and the American Academy of Family Physicians.
The vaccine schedule has been changed without presenting any data, without presenting any sort of reasoning behind these changes. And I do fear that this will further undermine trust in vaccines.
She says not only are the changes creating confusion among parents and caregivers, but for healthcare providers too.
Putting them in a difficult position right now where the federal government is recommending something that is not in line with their national scientific bodies and with their national peers.
And so I'm seeing a lot of parents come in with that skepticism, asking, is this safe, are these effective, etc.
That's Dr. Braden Eggstrom, a pediatrician at U of M Health West. He is also following AAP recommendations for childhood vaccination schedules.
My fear is that it's going to cause more parents to be more skeptical about vaccines, more hesitant, and miss the appropriate windows where we need to get the kids vaccinated to give them that lifelong protection.
He says it's natural to have questions about vaccinations with so much noise surrounding the topic lately. So have a conversation with your child's pediatrician about what's best for your kid.
We all want your child to be healthy, prosperous, and do all the things they want to do in life, right? That's why we get into pediatrics, is to help kids grow up. And we're all on the same team with parents.
The CDC now splits recommendations into 3 categories: vaccines for all children, vaccines for certain high-risk groups, and vaccines based on shared clinical decision-making. The CDC said the changes still mean diseases under the previous schedule will still be available to those who want them under federal insurance programs. And in another downtown Grand Rapids rally this week, dozens protested against the events that took place in Washington, D.C. on January 6th, 5 years ago, on the day Congress was certifying Joe Biden's electoral victory. Many protesters in Grand Rapids this week carried signs that expressed their feelings, their frustration with President Trump. Organizers of the event referenced Special Counsel Jack Smith's recent words when he said January 6th doesn't happen without Donald Trump. A West Michigander is making history after being sworn into her new role in city government. We sat down with her to find out why her election was so historic and what drove her to serve her community. That's next. The city city of Muskegon swore in its new city commissioners last week, but this wasn't just your average swearing in. Instead, the city made history with one of the city commission's most recent additions, a 23-year-old at-large commissioner. 13 on Your Side's Riley Mack sat down with her to talk about her journey to being the youngest person ever to serve on the city commission.
History. Notoriously hard to make. Harder still when you have so little of it. Yourself.
My name is Kylie Jackson.
Which makes this next part,
I'm 23 years old.
worth a second listen.
I am an at-large city commissioner for the city of Muskegon. I am an at-large city commissioner for the city of Muskegon.
Yep.
It was weird to say that for the first time.
At 23, Kylie Jackson could be settling into adulthood.
I am the youngest city commissioner in Muskegon's history.
Instead, she's settling into her seat.
What is it about Muskegon that you love?
How resilient Muskegon is. I live in the same house that I've lived in ever since I was born. I take great pride in being from Muskegon. Often we can be overlooked or people just see us as our bad attributes, but we're so much more than that. We're ruthless. We can come back from so much.
Kylie's story starts in these arms.
My grandfather is a former city commissioner. When I was younger, I'd go to all the parades with him or the community cleanups. I just remember thinking like, this is something that I want to do. We were going through my stuff for my high school graduation, and in second grade, I had wrote a paper. I had said that I wanted to be president because I wanted to bring more peace to our country, and then I also wanted to help the unhoused community. Seeing that reignited a fire within me, and I started working on campaigns. I want them to know, yes, I'm young, but that doesn't lower my value as an elected official. It's time that a young person is in a role that has some influence.
Then came election night.
I just kept on sitting there looking down at the numbers, and I was like, I really did this.
And the seat Kylie has eyed since childhood
Commissioner-elect Jackson, if you step forward, please.
was hers.
I, Kylie Jackson.
Do solemnly swear.
Not one seat was empty, and it was filled with family, friends, and mentors that I've met along the way. To just hear the eruption of how proud everyone was, it was a moment that I don't think I'll ever forget.
Congratulations.
How does it feel to make history?
Powerful.
History. Notoriously hard to make. But Kylie Jackson's new seat shows Muskegon is not focused on the past.
Every single person has value in this world.
It's betting on the future.
The fact that they're willing to trust me is enough. I'm going to do everything I can to make them proud.
And that's the rundown for your week in Michigan politics. Be sure to keep up with all the top political stories of the day, both on air and online at 13onyourside.com.